Hey guys, close your eyes for a moment, if you wish, and let the world around you fade. Imagine yourself stepping back through the centuries to a time where the air is thick with the scent of damp earth. This is a story of toil, of community, of survival. Let's step into their world. In Woodsmoke, where the rhythm of life is set by the rising sun and the turning seasons. It's dawn, and the air is cool, tinged with the faint sweetness of dew-soaked grass. The room is dim, lit only by the glow of the flames in a single, narrow window covered with oiled cloth. In spring and summer, you head to the fields, tools slung over your shoulder, a wooden plow, a sickle, or a hoe, their handles worn smooth by years of use. Your hands blister, your back aches, but the work must be done. The harvest depends on it, and a poor yield could mean hunger for your family and the entire village. At midday, you might pause to share a meal with your fellow serfs, dark rye bread, a wedge of cheese, and a mug of weak ale brewed from barley. Laughter and stories pass between you, tales of the village's history or gossip about the Lord's latest demands. Hunger was a constant companion, especially in years when rains failed or frost came early. A single bad harvest could mean months of scraping by on watery pottage or boiled nettles. Disease, too, was ever present. A fever could sweep through the village, claiming young and old alike. And medical knowledge was limited to herbal remedies and prayers. But who were these serfs, and how did they come to live this way? Let's step closer to one individual, a single life among the many, to understand their story. The threat of violence, though distant, loomed raids from rival lords or bandits could disrupt the fragile order of your world. In the evenings, you return to the village, where the glow of firelight spills from doorways. Families gather, singing songs or telling folktale stories of saints, spirits, or cunning foxes outwitting cruel lords. In summer, you weed and tend the crops, the sun beating down on your linen tunic, your brow damp with sweat. Sundays and holy days brought rest, though even these were not entirely free. You attended Mass, standing on the cold stone floor, listening to the priest speak in Latin you barely understood. These moments offered a glimpse of something larger promise of salvation, a connection to a world beyond the fields. Festivals, too, broke the monotony. The feast of a saint, the turning of the seasons, or the raucous celebration of a wedding. You danced to the sound of pipes and drums, drank ale, and, for a moment, forgot the weight of your obligations. Autumn brings the harvest, a frantic race against time to gather crops before the first frost. Winter is no reprieve. You repair tools, tend livestock, or work in the Lord's manor, perhaps hauling wood or spinning wool. The sky is streaked with gold and purple, and the air carries the faint chill of evening. Your hands are calloused, your body weary, but there's a quiet pride in the work you've done. The crops you've tended will feed your family, your neighbors, and even the Lord's household. Your life is one of endurance, of small victories carved from the earth. As you walk back to your cottage, the village settles into stillness. The only sounds, the crackle of fires and the distant lowing of cattle. The fields stretch out in long, narrow strips, divided among the village's families. This is the open field system, a patchwork of crops, wheat, rye, barley, or oats surrounded by common pastures, where the village's livestock graze. You work alongside your neighbors, men and women alike, under the watchful eye of the Lord's bailiff, or reeve, who ensures no one shirks their duties. The floor is packed earth-cool beneath your bare feet, and the air smells faintly of straw and the lingering warmth of last night. Spotija, thick stew of barley peas, and whatever herbs or roots you could gather. As a serf, you owed boon work, extra labor for the Lord during peak seasons, such as harvesting his crops or repairing his roads. You might also owe a portion of your own harvest, perhaps a tenth of your grain or a few chickens, to the Lord or the church as tithe. Taxes, too, were a constant burden, a fee to marry, a fee to inherit your father's land, even a fee to use the Lord's mill to grind your grain into flour. Every loaf of bread you ate was a reminder of your obligations. Your family, perhaps a spouse, children, or elderly parents, shares this single room, sleeping on straw mattresses or simple wooden benches. Privacy was a luxury unknown to you. Before you lies a cluster of low, thatched roof cottages, their walls made of wattle and daub-woven sticks plastered with mud and straw. Smoke curls lazily from chimneys, mingling with the mist that clings to the fields beyond. This is a medieval village, somewhere in the rolling countryside of 13th century England or France. And you are a serf, bound to this land and its lord. Tonight, we're traveling to medieval Europe, to the world of the serf life, bound to the land, woven into the fabric of a feudal society. You did not own the fields you worked, nor the home you slept in. Your life was tethered to the manor, the estate of the lord who held power over the land. In return for protection and the right to cultivate a small strip of fields for your family, you owed labor, a share of your crops, and loyalty. Freedom, as you might imagine it, was a distant dream, but your days were filled with purpose, however grueling. This is not a tale of kings or knights, but of the countless men and women whose labor sustained an era. Their lives were simple, yet complex, arduous, yet rich with meaning. As you settle in, let the stresses of your day slip away, and allow yourself to wander through their world, both distant and strangely familiar. We'll explore their daily routines, their struggles, their culture, and the mysteries that linger in the shadow of their existence. So, rest now, and let's begin. Our journey starts in the heart of a medieval village, where the serf's life unfolded under the vast sky of feudal Europe. Imagine yourself standing on a narrow dirt path, worn smooth by countless footsteps. The life of a serf was defined by the rhythm of the seasons, the demands of the land, and the unspoken rules of feudal obligation. As the sun rises, you're already awake, stirring a fire in the hearth of your small home. Your day begins with a call to work. The labor is relentless. In spring, you plow and sow, the heavy wooden plow catching on stones hidden in the soil. But it wasn't just the fields that demanded your time. Yet, life wasn't solely toil. The rhythm of your days was punctuated by moments of community and ritual. The church was the heartbeat of the village, its stone walls a rare permanence in a world of wood and straw. But life as a serf was not without its shadows. Imagine yourself now, standing in the fields at dusk. Pause briefly, allowing the imagery to linger. This was the daily rhythm of a serf's life bound to the land, shaped by labor, yet woven with moments of connection and resilience. As the village settles into the quiet of evening, let's draw closer to one life among the many a serf named Elric, whose story offers a window into the world of medieval peasantry. Elric's life was not recorded in chronicles or sung by bards, but it was no less significant for its ordinariness. His story, like that of countless serfs, was etched into the fields he worked and the community he sustained. Like most serfs, Elric inherited his status from his parents, who worked the same fields before him. This was not a dramatic battle or a royal decree, but a slow, grinding hardship that tested the endurance of Elric, his family, and his village. The fields, normally a patchwork of green shoots by May, remained stubbornly dry, the soil cracking underfoot like broken pottery. The Lord's fields, which took precedence, yielded barely enough to fill half the usual quota. Elric's own small plot, meant to feed his wife Edith and their 2 young children, produced only a handful of meager sheaves. The tithe to the church and the Lord's share took even more, leaving Elric's family with a dwindling store of grain. He and Edith worked together, rationing their food with care. But the scars lingered. Qua lost a child to fever that winter, a quiet sorrow that he carried in the lines of his face. The village buried others, their graves marked with simple wooden crosses by the churchyard. What beliefs, traditions, and unanswered questions shaped their existence? Let's explore the hidden layers of their society. Yet, Elric's family survived, and the crops of the following year brought a cautious hope. Elric's life resumed its rhythm, plowing, sowing, harvesting, but the famine had changed him. He became more deliberate, saving extra grain when he could, teaching his surviving son to do the same. They shared what little they had with a widowed neighbor, whose own children were too weak to work. Elric organized the village men to repair a damaged mill, hoping to grind what grain remained more efficiently. In the evenings, he told stories to his children's tales of clever peasants outwitting misfortune to keep their spirits high. The community, though strained, held together, bound by shared struggle and the unspoken promise to endure. The village granary, usually a bulwark against lean times, stood nearly empty. Elric and his neighbors worked tirelessly, hauling water from the nearby stream to irrigate their strips of land. But it was a losing battle. It was a life of endurance, where survival depended on ingenuity, community, and an unyielding connection to the land. Elric's story is not one of triumph or tragedy, but of persistence, a single thread in the tapestry of medieval life. The once lively paths are quieter now, the faces of your neighbors drawn and weary. Disease often followed malnutrition, and whispers of fever in nearby villages kept Elric awake at night, listening to the uneven breaths of his sleeping children. The church offered prayers, but the priest's words felt distant, unable to fill empty bellies. The Lord, insulated in his stone manor house, sent his bailiff to collect the usual dues, though Elric and others pleaded for leniency. Some serfs, desperate, hid portions of their harvest, risking punishment if caught. Elric, cautious by nature, paid what was demanded, though it left his family teetering on the edge of survival. The laughter that once accompanied midday meals is replaced by hushed conversations about how to stretch what little food remains. Elric, like others, turns to the forest and hedgerows, gathering wild nettles, roots, and berries to bolster their meals. The children, usually scampering about, cling closer to their parents, their small bodies thinner than they should be. The barley and wheat, so carefully sown, grew stunted, their heads barely forming. By summer, the village knew hunger was coming. Let's step into that year, imagining the world through Elric's eyes. His father taught him to plow, to read the sky for signs of rain, and to repair the thatch on their cottage. His mother showed him how to tend a small garden patch where they grew onions, cabbages, and herbs to flavor their meals. From childhood, Elric knew his place in the feudal order. He was not free to leave the manor, marry without permission, or own the fruits of his labor outright. Yet, within these constraints, he carved out a life of purpose. Through him, we'll explore a pivotal event that shaped his life and the lives of those around him. A moment of hardship that reveals both the fragility and resilience of a serf's existence. Imagine yourself now, sitting by a crackling fire in Elric's modest cottage. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of burning oak and the faint taint of stew simmering in a clay pot. Elric is a man of about 30, though his weathered hands and lined face make him seem older. His tunic is patched but clean, his boots caked with the day's mud. He's a serf, born on this manor in the heart of 13th century England, and his life is bound to the land as surely as the roots of the crops he tends. Elric's story begins with his birth, in a time when the manor was ruled by a stern but fair lord named Godwin. Our focus falls on a single, transformative event in Elric's life, the famine of 1272. A year when the rains failed and the crops withered across the region. It began in spring, when the rains that usually softened the earth for plowing never came. As the harvest approached, Elric faced a cruel reality. Imagine yourself walking with Elric through the village during this time. The famine brought not only hunger, but fear. Yet, even in this hardship, Elric's resilience shone through. The famine's worst passed with the next spring, when rains finally returned and the fields began to recover. This event, one of many in Elric's life, reflects the broader reality of serfdom. As we step back from Elric's life, we turn now to the mysteries and cultural underpinnings of the serf's world. As the fire in Elric's cottage burns low, casting flickering shadows on the Waterland daub walls, let us step beyond the daily toil and personal struggles to explore the deeper currents of the serf-as world. Picture yourself stepping inside, the air cool and heavy with the scent of beeswax, candles, and old incense. The walls are adorned with simple, frescoes, vivid images of saints and biblical scenes, painted in earthy reds and blues. Picture a midsummer feast, the village green alive with the sound of pipes, drums, and laughter. Imagine yourself as an archaeologist, sifting through the soil of a long-abandoned village. You uncover a broken sickle, its iron blade rusted but still sharp, a testament to the endless labor of the fields. Imagine yourself listening as an elder recounts a tale of a spectral figure said to haunt the forest edge, punishing those who stole from the Lord's woods. Imagine yourself kneeling in the church, hearing tales of miracle saints who healed the sick or protected villages from calamity. Yet, the same faith that offered hope also bred fear. A bad harvest or a child as illness might be blamed on a witch as curse or the devil as influence. Accusations of witchcraft, though rarer in the 13th century than later, could tear a village apart as neighbors turned on one another in desperation. The church, both comforter and enforcer, held sway over these fears, guiding the serfs' understanding of an unpredictable world. Were these stories mere superstition, or did they serve a purpose, reinforcing social rules in a world without written laws? Some tales spoke of hidden treasures buried during times of war or rebellion, but no serf dared dig for them, fearing divine or earthly retribution. These stories passed from generation to generation, were a cultural glue, but their details fade with time, leaving us to wonder what wisdom or warnings they held. Nearby, a clay pot, its surface etched with simple patterns, speaks of meals shared in cramped cottages. In the churchyard, weathered gravestones bear no names, only crude crosses, hinting at the countless lives that passed unrecorded. Their world was one of toil and faith, of mysteries whispered in the dark and rituals performed in the light. But not all lives in the village were the same. Let's turn now to the social hierarchy, to the lords and elites who shaped the serfs' existence, and the stark contrasts that defined their world. These artifacts tell a story of resilience, of a people who left little mark on history's pages, but shaped the land itself. Now, let's explore the social order that governed them, from the lowliest peasant to the lord in his manor. Men and women dance in a circle, their feet stirring dust into the warm air. The scent of roasted mutton and fresh-baked bread fills the night, a rare abundance after months of careful rationing. These celebrations tied to the church calendar, like the Feast of St. John or Michaelmas, were not just revelry. They reinforced the community's bonds, reminding you that your survival depended on your neighbors as much as the land. Even a lord might join, his presence a reminder of the feudal hierarchy, yet softened by shared ale and song. These images were not mere decoration. They were a visual language for a largely illiterate population, telling stories of salvation and divine order. The priest, often the only literate man in the village, spoke in Latin, his words a rhythmic chant that you, as a serf, might not fully understand, but felt deeply. Picture a village like Elric's, now silent, its cottages crumbled, its fields reclaimed by wild grasses. Why were these villages abandoned? So point to the Black Death, which swept through Europe in the 14th century, claiming lives and leaving villages too depleted to survive. Others suggest economic shifts, as lords consolidated land for sheep grazing, displacing serfs to make way for more profitable wool production. Climate changes, like the cooling of the Little Ice Age, may have strained already fragile harvests. Archaeologists find clues shrunken field boundaries, abandoned mills, but the full story remains elusive. a puzzle half solved. The church was a place of solace, where the rhythm of your life, birth, marriage, death was marked by sacred rituals. Imagine yourself now, standing at the edge of the village, where the fields give way to a dark forest, its branches whispering secrets in the evening breeze. Beyond the village, in the shadows of the forest or the quiet of a moonlit field, older traditions lingered. Imagine yourself walking a worn path to a spring, its waters said to heal ailments or grant blessings. These sacred wells, often tied to pre-Christian beliefs, were still revered, though the church might call them superstition. A serf might leave a small offering, a ribbon, a coin, or a twist of bread, such a sight, whispering a prayer for a sick child or a bountiful harvest. These practices blended seamlessly with Christian rituals, creating a rich, syncretic culture. The priest might frown, but he knew better than to challenge the village's deep-rooted customs. The life of a serf was not just one of labor and survival. It was steeped in beliefs, traditions, and mysteries that shaped their understanding of the world. Tonight, we'll wander through the cultural tapestry of medieval serfdom, touching on the archaeological traces that remain and the unanswered questions that linger like mist over the fields. The heart of a serf's cultural life was the village church, its stone walls, a beacon of permanence in a world of wood and straw. But the church was not the only force shaping a serf's beliefs. Festivals were another thread in this cultural tapestry, weaving moments of joy into the serf's arduous life. Archaeology offers us glimpses into this world, piecing together the serf's life from fragments left behind. Yet, mysteries remain. One such enigma is the phenomenon of deserted medieval villages, hundreds of which the European landscape. Another mystery lies in the serfs' oral traditions, the stories and songs that bound their communities but rarely survived in writing. The serf's worldview was also shaped by a constant awareness of the divine and the demonic. As we linger in this cultural landscape, consider the paradox of the serf's life, bound by obligation, yet sustained by community and belief. This cultural tapestry, woven from faith, tradition, and mystery, gives us a deeper understanding of the serf's life. As the stars begin to prick the evening sky above the village, imagine yourself standing at the edge of the fields, looking toward the horizon where the Lord's manor house looms. Its stone walls, sturdy and imposing, rise above the thatched cottages of the serfs, a constant reminder of the social order that governs your world. The life of a serf, like Elric's, was one of toil and obligation. But it existed in the shadow of a different world, the world of the elite, the lords and ladies whose lives were intertwined with, yet starkly different from your own. Let's step across this divide, exploring the social hierarchy of medieval Europe, the lives of those who held power. Picture her in a high-ceilinged chamber, her gown of fine wool dyed a deep green, embroidered with threads of gold, where the Lord's family eats meat and drinks wine. Your meals are simple pottage, bread, and occasionally a bit of cheese or salted fish. Where the manor house is warm with multiple hearths, your cottage relies on a single fire, the smoke stinging your eyes as it escapes through a hole in the thatch. As a serf, you could not leave the manor without the Lord's permission, a restriction that felt like a chain, however invisible. In watching the dances, a rare moment of unity. In times of crisis, like the famine Elric endured, the Lord's survival depended on the serf's labor, just as the serfs relied on his protection. As we leave the manor and village behind, let's reflect on the broader arc of their lives and the legacy they left, easing our way toward rest. Okay, now let's draw our journey to a close, reflecting on the serf's world and the quiet comfort of our own. Okay, this interdependence, however unequal, was the backbone of feudal society. The Lord needed your hands to work the fields. Okay, you needed his land to grow your food. It was a delicate balance, often strained but rarely broken. Marriage required the Lord's approval, often accompanied by a fine called merchat. The Lord and his family sit at the front, their pews cushioned, while you stand at the back, with other serfs, your feet aching on the cold stone floor. The priest's voice echoes, speaking of a divine order that places the Lord above you, yet promises salvation to all. In this moment, you are part of the same community, bound by faith and shared dependence on the land. But as you leave the church, the contrast returns the Lord to his manor, you to your fields. Okay? If you died, your family might owe a Harriet, typically your best animal or a portion of your goods, to secure their right to your land. These rules bound you to the manor, ensuring the Lord's wealth and power while limiting your own. The Lord's family sleeps on feather mattresses with linen sheets. You and your family make do with straw pallets and rough woolen blankets. Even clothing marks the divide. The Lord and lady wear tailored garments of wool or even silk, while your tunic and hose, patched and faded, are spun from coarse wool or flax you grew yourself. She oversees the household, directing servants to prepare meals, weave cloth, or preserve food for winter. Imagine the bailiff, a man often drawn from the village, but elevated by the Lord's favor. He walks the fields, his staff in hand, ensuring you and your neighbors meet your labor obligations. His position earns him resentment as he collects the Lord's dues or finds those who fail to deliver. The priest, too, holds a unique place, neither serf nor noble, but a figure of spiritual authority. His stone rectory, modest but larger than your cottage, sets him apart, as does his ability to read and write, a skill that makes him both revered and mistrusted. Her days might include needlework or reading from a rare manuscript, a privilege reserved for the literate elite. Yet, her life is not without constraint. She, too, is bound by the expectations of her role. Her marriage, often a strategic alliance to strengthen the family's position. Her children, raised with tutors and trained in courtly manners, are groomed to inherit the manor or marry into another noble family. Their futures far removed from the fields you work. The contrasts that define the rhythm of existence for both serf and noble. Picture the manor house, its windows glowing with candlelight, a beacon of wealth in the darkening landscape. The Lord, perhaps someone like Lord Godwin, lives here with his family, surrounded by a small retinue of servants and retainers. Imagine yourself watching from a distance as Lord Godwin oversees his estate. His days are filled with managing the manor-settling disputes among serfs, collecting rents and taxes, and ensuring the fields produce enough to sustain both his household and his obligations to the king or higher nobles. He might ride out to inspect the fields, his horse's hooves stirring dust on the same paths you tread, or meet with his bailiff to review accounts scratched onto parchment. His authority is absolute within the manor, but it is not unchallenged. He must navigate the demands of his own lord, the church, and sometimes rebellious serfs. Unlike your cottage, with its single room and earthen floor, the manor is a sprawling structure of multiple chambers. Its great hall, its walls hung with tapestries woven with scenes of hunts and battles, is the heart of the manor. Here, the Lord dines at a long oak table, the air rich with the scent of roasted venison, spiced wine, and fresh-baked white bread luxuries you, as a serf, might never taste. The Lord's meals are served on pewter or even silver plates, a far cry from the wooden bowls and coarse rye loaves of your table. The Lord's life was one of privilege, but it came with its own burdens. The lady of the manor, Lady Eleanor, leads a life equally distinct. Contrast this with your life as a serf. The social hierarchy extended beyond the Lord to other figures of authority. This hierarchy was reinforced by law and custom. Yet, there were moments when the divide blurred. During festivals, the Lord might join the village on the green, sharing ale. Imagine yourself now, standing in the village church on a Sunday morning. This social order, with its stark contrasts and subtle connections, defined the world of the serf. The lives of serfs and elites, though worlds apart, were woven together in the tapestry of medieval life. As the night deepens over the medieval village, imagine yourself standing once more on the dirt path that winds through the fields. The air is cool now, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and fading wood smoke. The cottages are quiet, their fires reduced to glowing embers. And the manor house stands silent on the hill, its windows dark. The serfs, though unrecorded in history's grand chronicles, were the backbone of their world. Their hands shaped the fields, their voices filled the village with song, and their lives, however constrained, were rich with meaning. They faced uncertainties, hunger, disease, the whims of lords with a perseverance that echoes across centuries. Their story reminds us of the quiet power of ordinary lives, of the countless men and women whose labor built the foundations of the world we know today. The world of the serf, its rhythms, its hardships, its fleeting joys fades gently into the past, like a dream that lingers just beyond reach. As we draw our journey to a close, let us reflect on the lives we've explored and the quiet contrast they offer to the world you rest in now. The serf's life was one of endurance, bound to the land and the will of those above them. Their days were shaped by the turning seasons, the weight of obligation, and the fragile hope of a good harvest. Through Elric's story, we saw the toll of famine, the resilience of community, and the quiet strength that carried him through loss. We wandered through the cultural tapestry of their world, its faith, its mysteries, its traditions whispered in the shadow of the church or the glow of a festival fire, and we glimpsed the stark divide between serf and lord, a hierarchy that defined their existence, yet revealed their shared dependence on the land. What lingers from this journey is not just the hardship, but the humanity. Now, as you rest in the comfort of your own time, let the weight of their struggles slip away. Imagine yourself leaving the village behind, the path beneath your feet fading into soft grass, the air growing lighter. The worries of your day, like those of the serf, can be set aside for now. You are here, in this moment, tainted by the gentle hum of the presenter world, far removed from the fields and manners of medieval Europe. Let the rhythm of your breath carry you toward sleep, as the past fades into a soothing whisper.